Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 307, just one of the geysers. The episode begins as we see what had happened at the end of last episode with the rock path being revealed that would take Ash and the gang, as well as Shauna and Brawly, because Shauna was coming along to Ref, to Brawly's secret private stadium, where Ash would have his rematch with Brawly. Everyone watched in amazement as the stone path was unveiled, and they all head across the walkway to the Rock Island. Meanwhile, actually inside of Brawly's secret private stadium, Team Rocket was already there, seemingly having been blasted off inside somehow at the end of last episode when they got blasted off. Specifically, they fell into the part of the stadium that had his sparring area, because it wasn't just a battle stadium, it was basically a whole-on separate gym. So there was a whole training area filled with weightlifting equipment and punching bags and other shit like that for training. Team Rocket quickly left this area, though, as they found something better, being a refrigerator in Brawly's little kitchen area that was beside the sparring area, and they began to drool as they opened the refrigerator, finding it full of berries and vegetables. Basically every vegetable you could think of, and orange berries, pekka berries, and even citrus berries, but there was also a whole bunch of other food as well. And Team Rocket obviously chowed the fuck down. They were so amazed by all of this that they started to go on and on about how they actually had good luck for once and had hit the jackpot. Meowth loved the place so much that he figured that Team Rocket could invite Giovanni for dinner to this place, and they could also make this place their own base that Giovanni wanted in Hoenn so much. And basically, Giovanni could even officiate the place as a base when he came over to eat. Jesse then remembers that it wasn't just luck that they had ended up at this place, it was due to their skill, because they had saved themselves when they were blasting off last time, as we then see a flashback of what had happened when they blasted it off last episode. Basically, Jessie used a parachute to land safely, because apparently she had one, and Meowth had an umbrella to land safely. James didn't have anything though, so he merely grabbed on to Meowth as he floated away in his umbrella. This didn't work out that well for Meowth, or at least it seemed that way, because James was too heavy. So the umbrella went plummeting down, and since they had already floated over Brawly's Rock Island by this point, James and Meowth ended up falling into a hole on the island that took them to Brawly's kitchen and sparring place. Jessie soon failed to use her parachute correctly, so she ended up falling into the hole as well, on top of Meowth and James, and it was then that they found the sparring room, followed by the refrigerator, and opened it and began eating, which was where they were right now. The flashback then ends, and we then see Meowth dressed in a chef's outfit, with vegetables all around him, as he explains that he was about to make an awesome feast. And he began to prepare, utilizing almost every vegetable in the fridge. But he got annoyed when he noticed that Jessie and James were already eating food, being a melon and an apple. Meowth screams at Jessie and James, mad that they were eating all of his potential future ingredients that he was going to use for a special fruit salad after the vegetable feast. Jessie and James at first try to ignore Meowth's complaints, but when he keeps complaining, they just tell him that they were just going to eat whatever they wanted to eat, because they knew that whatever Meowth would cook, he would likely tarnish, because he'd never cooked in his life. Meowth saw that Jessie and James were probably right. He couldn't cook for shit, and he saw that they were enjoying the food without cooking anyway, so he decided to try something himself, being a can of tuna. So he bit down on it, but he realized that he was so hungry, he forgot to actually open up the can, and he bit the can instead of the actual tuna, so he hurt his teeth, making him mad as he throws the tuna can away. This causes the tuna can to roll on the ground, but suddenly it is picked up by none other than Brawly, as Brawly and Ash and the gang and Shauna had now arrived, likely coming down the hole. At first, Brawly questioned how the fuck a can could have rolled from his fridge, outside of the fridge, over to him, but then he, Ash and the gang, and Shauna saw Team Rocket as they were stuffing their mouths full of food and said their motto with full mouths. Even Meowth, as they were all chowing down. Shauna gets mad at this and demands that Team Rocket drop the goddamn food, and Brawly questions how they even got to his secret place in the first place, leading James to admit that Team Rocket always ended up in strange places, and Jessie stated that Team Rocket would refuse to give up the food since they technically found it first, because they didn't understand that this place was Brawly's secret place. They just thought that Ash and the gang and Brawly and Shauna had happened to stumble across it. Brawly tries to explain that this place was his, but Team Rocket doesn't believe him, as they claim that this place was now going to be their new secret Team Rocket base, and state that if Ash and the gang and Brawly were going to get in their way, then they were going to try and steal Ash's Pikachu, as usual. So Jessie sends out her Seviper to do this, as James sends out his Cacnea, determined to steal Pikachu and keep what they believed was their rightful new base. Seviper then starts off by using a haze attack to blind everyone, and Cacnea tries to hit everyone while they were blinded with a pin missile, although Ash and Pikachu just barely managed to jump out of the way and dodge it. And then Ash simply tells Pikachu to use Thunderbolt to send Team Rocket blasting off as usual, but Brawly stops him, as Pikachu's Thunderbolt could mix with the water that was underneath the place, and assures Ash that there was a more natural way that Team Rocket was going to be dealt with, thanks to his place. And he warned Team Rocket to leave before something bad happened to them. Team Rocket just laughed, thinking Brawly was full of shit and just trying to scare them. So they decline and state that they would never leave, making Shauna angry as she argues with Team Rocket, telling them to get the fuck out, and Brawly continues to warn them to get the fuck out as well. After a while of talking to Team Rocket, Brawly revealed that he was just distracting them to bide time, because now, any second, a jet of water was going to spout out and send Team Rocket blasting off out of the hole, explaining that the hole that Team Rocket fell through was made by an underground geyser. Team Rocket didn't believe Brawly still, so they still decided not to leave, although they regretted this, as they then heard a deep rumbling beneath them, and sure enough, a geyser of water blasted them back through the hole that they fell into, blasting them off. Ash and the gang were amazed by the geyser, leading Brawly to explain to everyone that geysers, like the one that had just blasted Team Rocket off, were caused by the shape of the island, and some waves that hit the island cause geysers to shoot up in the air through some of the holes. Then, Brawly shows Ash and the gang and Shauna his personal sparring area that Team Rocket had stumbled into, explaining the variety of exercise machines that he had that were all capable of training many different kinds of Pokemon, for their endurance with running, their strength with punching, etc. So yeah, Brawly did use those machines, but it was mostly to train his Pokemon. Shauna was particularly amazed by all the exercise equipment, stating that one day she would like to train with Metatite in this area if Brawly would permit her. Next, Brawly shows Ash and the gang and Shauna the battlefield that the gym battle was going to take place on, which was a gigantic rectangular rock formation filled with rocks on the actual floor and water, particularly moats and stalagmites. Ash and the gang were very amazed by this stadium, but Brawly warned that there was actually more to this stadium, being several holes, which all acted as a passageway for a geyser of their own, stating that a lot of his challengers that have happened to battle in this arena had always lost because of the geysers accidentally shooting up their mons and allowing his mon to take the win and strike them while they were up in the air. Brawly kind of laughed, though, because he admitted that in the center of the stadium, he even put a small painted circle that warned challengers of the geysers, so they shouldn't have been able to forget about the geysers, and they still got tripped up by them anyways. Ash and the gang then looked around the stadium some more, and saw that it was lit by 6 spotlights attached at different points, so that the stadium, including the holes for the geysers, could be easier to see. Upon hearing about the geysers, Max told Ash that he should use Tailo as one of his Pokemon for the battle, since Tailo could simply fly in the air above the geysers and hopefully avoid them. But Ash simply said that he knew what he was doing, as he had told Pikachu to sit out this match, since he had a specific strategy that was new, that he had thought of, and he really wanted to try it out. So, Pikachu was handed to Max as it sat on his head. Max was still worried about Ash, thinking that he should use Tailo, since he didn't think Ash actually even had a good strategy. He just couldn't see it, and neither could May. May then asked for Brock's opinion on if Ash could come up with an actual strategy and win, and much to May's surprise, Brock actually said that he thought that Ash did have a strategy this time, and he had confidence in him. Max was still skeptical, but Brock simply told him to just relax and enjoy the battle. Without further ado, Ash and Brawly took their respective sides on the battlefield, and Brawly remarked how he was excited to see how Ash has improved since their last battle, remembering how, during the last battle, Ash only used brute force instead of real strategy, which resulted in his loss, and he hoped that Ash definitely had a strategy this time. Although he told Ash that even if he did manage to come up with something, he still thought that he would be able to win. Shauna then decided to be the referee of the battle, as she told both Ash and Brawly the rules, the standard ones that we all know already. It's a 2-on-2 battle, and only the challenger was allowed to substitute. Alright, to be fair, I guess the only challenger can substitute rule wasn't that common, but anyways, as May, Brock, and Max watched eagerly, Ash and Brawly stared each other down in anticipation as Shauna officially declared that it was time for the battle to begin, as Brawly imagined a wave enveloping him as he threw out his first Pokemon, Machop, just like before. Ash then sends out his first mon, Trico, who puts its twig in its mouth and shakes its tail, ready to pound Machop. May and Max stated their doubts that Trico was the best mon to use in this current scenario, and even Brock agreed that Trico probably wasn't the best choice. But regardless, the battle began as Machop went for the first attack, being a speedy karate chop. However, Trico simply used the strategy that it had trained with Ash, where it waited for the attack, much like it waited for the wave, and it was able to dodge when the attack got close enough, causing the karate chop to chop a stalagmite instead. Trico then lands on another rock, as Brawly compliments Ash on how much his Pokemon's dodging skills had improved, and commends him on focusing on dodging as opposed to just brute force. Ash commends Trico on the dodge as well, and tells it to keep dodging any future attacks by bouncing from rock to rock as if they were trees, advising that it should do this by remembering the wave training and dodging the karate chops at just the right time. Sure enough, Trico was able to implement the wave strategy and dodged another karate chop extremely easily. And when Machop tries more karate chops, Trico obliges with Ash's idea and jumps from rock to rock as if they were trees, being able to do this as it remembered jumping across several trees with its pack of Trico back before Ash caught it. Machop gets very angry at this point as he makes a fist, and Brawly tells it to not give up, leading Machop to send 3 karate chops in a row at Trico, but Trico manages to dodge every one using the same rock-to-rock strategy. Because of all Trico's dodging, Machop was now gasping for breath, worn out from using up so much energy unleashing failed attacks. This led Brock to see that Ash's new strategy was to wear out Brawly's Pokemon. Although May reminded Brock that the strategy wasn't really new, as Ash was just copying Brawly's old strategy by telling his Pokemon to dodge like they dodged waves, leading Brock to stress that Brawly may find a way to counter the strategy since he was an expert in it. Machop then went in for a cross chop as opposed to a karate chop, but it was so tired that it stumbled, therefore missing the attack and allowing Trico to hit it with a quick attack, knocking it down, as it was sent backwards into the rock wall. This, combined with the fact that Machop was tired, made everyone, including Ash, and all of his friends, think that Machop was done. But, much to Ash's shock, Machop manages to get back up and recover, with Brawly stating that it would take a lot to wear out his Pokemon, since Machop was now bulked up. Basically, it had taken so much damage that it had absorbed the attacks again, and now it was even stronger, making Ash worried. Ash then gets more worried as Brawly reminds him of the geysers in the stadium, and He laughs confidently as he orders Machop to use another cross chop, stating that if Ash wanted to defeat him, the only way he could do so was by working with nature, like he was about to. As suddenly, the ground began to rumble. So Machop positioned itself over one of the holes and got launched up by a geyser. And Machop rides the geyser directly towards Trico, preparing to attack it with the cross chop. But just before the attack makes contact, Ash uses his liberty of being able to recall Pokemon and recalls his Trico, forcing the cross chop to break the rock that Trico was standing on instead, since it wasn't standing there anymore. Ash then sends out his second and final Pokemon, though he technically still had Trico left, Corphish, and immediately has to use Bubble Beam, knocking Machop back a little bit. And with Machop severely weakened, Ash tells Corphish to finish it off with a Crab Hammer, but Machop was able to block the attack by using a Karate Chop, although Ash quickly thought fast and told Corphish to back off for a second. And once the Karate Chop had ended, Corphish simply went in for a second Crab Hammer, which managed to hit Machop and knock it out, leading Shauna to declare Corphish the winner, as Brawly recalls Machop. Max was amazed that Ash actually managed to beat Machop, but May reminded Max that the battle was still not over yet, with Brock adding that Ash still had Hariyama to beat, and May continued to state her doubts that Ash could win, because Ash may lose concentration and get overconfident, like he sometimes tended to. Ash then congratulated Corphish on its win against Machop, but Brawly then imagined himself riding another wave as he called out his Hariyama as his last Pokemon. And Hariyama immediately strikes with several arm thrusts, leading Ash to quickly tell Corphish to use Harden. Because basically, Ash thought that if Corphish just focused on defending itself with a Harden, then Hariyama would eventually get tired as it kept, punching and doing arm thrusts. Its arms would eventually get tired and slow down. So Ash encourages Corphish to hold on a little longer in hopes that Hariyama would slow down, but Hariyama unfortunately doesn't slow down at all, as Brawly just tells it to use even harder arm thrusts, and it begins to knock Corphish back, even though it had the Harden, because the Harden seemed to be getting broken through. Corphish was trying to resist the onslaught of arm thrust, but it was really struggling, and Ash, seeing that his plan of getting the Hariyama to wear itself out wasn't working, instead changed tactics and ordered Corphish to dive into the moat. And it does so, swimming in the water as Hariyama follows it, and since it couldn't swim, it simply landed on one of the big rocks in the moat. Once Hariyama was comfortable on this sturdy rock, it began to look around in search of Corphish. Ash didn't panic though, he instead was overconfident, exclaiming that Corphish had the advantage now, since Hariyama, despite being a good surfer, was too big and heavy to move easily through the water like Corphish, so Hariyama wouldn't be able to get to it, and Corphish would be able to get to Hariyama. Sure enough, that's what happens, as Corphish jump scares the Hariyama by jumping out from the water and smacking it with a Crab Hammer attack before going back into the water, and leaving Hariyama almost toppling over. Upon seeing this made May and Max agree that Ash did seem to have the advantage, though Brock somewhat doubted this because he noticed that Brawly didn't seem worried at all. This was because Brawly had thought of a counter to Corphish, knowing how to deal with this, admitting that the situation was currently a problem, as he ordered his Hariyama, who soon recovered from the Crab Hammer, to use Arm Thrust directly at the water, which forces Corphish to come out of the water because of the impact, and all of the fierce waves. Now, with Hariyama knowing Corphish's location, it took no time for Hariyama to quickly grab Corphish and use Seismic Toss, coming out of the moat and tossing Corphish onto the rocky terrain, knocking Corphish out, forcing Ash to recall it, as he congratulates it on doing an alright job, despite the loss, thanking it for giving it its all. May was surprised by Corphish being defeated, especially because Corphish was caught specifically to battle Brawly, and Brock then reminded May and Max that the battle wasn't over yet. Ash still had Trico, although it was his last choice. Just then, Ash pulled out Trico's Pokeball, hoping it could beat Hariyama, but before he sent it out, he remembered the previous match and how bad Trico got fucked up. Knowing that it was due to recklessness and a lack of dodging, Ash hoped that all the training he had done with Trico to dodge would now pay off, and he was confident, declaring to Trico as he called it out, that he and Trico would not lose against Hariyama this time. So Ash sent Trico out to fight, and it was more than eager for a rematch against Hariyama, just like Ash was, as it placed its twig in its mouth and stared down Hariyama intensely, right before the battle began, with Hariyama making the first move, trying to arm thrust Trico, but Trico was able to dodge. Ash congratulated Trico for this, and told it to keep dodging Hariyama's arms by staying low, so Trico obliged by staying by Hariyama's feet and using a pound on Hariyama's right leg, only for Hariyama to direct its hands down toward Trico and go for another arm thrust, but Trico dodged by jumping back. Hariyama simply goes up to Trico and tries more arm thrusts, but Trico avoids by going towards a rock and attaching to the rock with its tail to swing around it. Since Trico was now facing Hariyama's back, it was able to attack its legs without having to worry about getting hit by an arm thrust, as Hariyama couldn't turn around in time before its legs got assaulted by several pounds. Despite this, Hariyama still tried to attack with arm thrusts, but obviously to no avail, as Hariyama's legs just kept taking more of a beating. May didn't quite understand what Ash's plan was, so Brock explained that Ash was having Trico stay low so that it wouldn't get hit by Hariyama's powerful arms and could instead weaken its legs, which was how it held up its huge body. So if its legs were weakened, then it likely couldn't hold itself up. Knowing this, May and Max thought that Ash was getting pretty close to actually defeating Hariyama then, and they cheered him on louder than ever. However, Trico was beginning to get tired now, due to all the dodging, making Max worried that it wouldn't have enough strength left to dodge. Brawly noticed that Trico might not have strength to dodge either, so he told Hariyama to attack with Vital Throw and take advantage of Trico's weakness. So Hariyama approached Trico, but Hariyama was tiring out as well, since it tripped because of its now weak legs while making its way towards Trico, allowing the Vital Throw to miss, though only by mere inches. And it's because of Hariyama's failure that Brawly finally realizes that Ash had been focusing on Hariyama's legs, and now they were weak. By this point in the battle, both Pokemon were extremely exhausted, although Max was especially worried for Trico, since it was now breathing really heavily. Just then, though, Ash noticed a sudden rumbling of water beneath the stadium, and declared to Brawly that the match was about to be decided. Realizing that the water was signifying a geyser about to come up, so he told Trico to stand over a hole and ride the geyser to attack. Brawly heard Ash's declaration that the battle would be decided, and also came to the conclusion that the geyser was going to arrive soon, so he told Hariyama to stand on a hole as well, and the two Pokemon stared each other down as they awaited the geysers, preparing to be thrown in the air. Brock was very, very interested in this, as he couldn't wait to see the geysers in action during a battle, and knew that the Pokemon rising up on geysers and using them to attack could obviously backfire on the Pokemon, because they could end up falling off. But that's just what made it so exciting. The geysers then erupted, and they took both Pokemon into the air. And then the geysers pushed them right towards each other, and Hariyama and Trico both leap off the geysers to attack each other, with Hariyama using knockoff and Trico using a pound in its spin formation, and both attacks made contact right in the middle of the stadium. After this, Trico and Hariyama both land on the ground, jumping off the geysers, with Trico landing on one side of the stadium and Hariyama landing on the other side. Both Pokemon were weakened, so they could barely move a muscle, only barely turning their heads to stare each other down one last time. Several seconds of pure silence then pass, as Ash, Brawly, Shauna, May, Max, and Brock watch very impatiently, wondering what the fuck was going to happen, as neither Pokemon moved a muscle. Several more seconds of silence then pass, and a fall is heard, causing dust. When the dust clears, it's revealed that Hariyama had fallen and was unable to battle. So, Shauna officially declares Trico and Ash the winner of the battle, and everyone in the audience, being May, Max, and Brock, cheers as Ash thanks Trico, and it nods, showing its respect towards Ash, and also showing how proud it was of itself for beating Hariyama. With the battle over, Ash and gang, Brawly and Shauna then go back outside the area and go back to the main beach on Dewford Island, right by Brawly's gym, his actual gym, as Brawly hands Ash his reward, his second home gym badge, the Knuckle Badge, as it shines in his hands, and he puts it up to the sky, very proud of his win, doing his usual victory pose. Brawly then tells Ash that it was definitely a great battle, and tells him that Ash had inspired him to train harder. But before Brawly can continue, Shauna then cuts in, admitting that she learned a lot from her battle with Ash and Ash's battle against Brawly. Brawly then continues like he was planning to, admitting that Ash was a truly talented trainer, and urges him to always stay calm and focused, and keep a cool head during battles, as well as constantly train and do the best that he can, because if Ash did all this, then he was sure to be a force to be reckoned with in the Hoenn League. Ash thanks him for the advice, and promises to always follow it, as he and the gang then set off toward their next destination, the town or city that contained Ash's third gym battle, even though they didn't know where that was yet. As Ash continued to go on to this town, wherever it was, he still had Brawly's advice echoing in his mind, promising to never forget it, and to remain calm from now on, as best he could anyway.